time for Cowboys Insider inside the Academy Sports and Outdoor Studios here at the Star, home of the Dallas Cowboys in Frisco, Texas. Bill Jones along with Nate Newton, Rick Goslin, and Daryl Johnston as we get you set for the fourth quarter of this Cowboy season. Nate, you ready for the fourth quarter?
Definitely, man. Run the rock.
Hey, how about that? Apparently, the coaches watched Cowboys Insider last week because they did run the rock against the Redskins, and now it's the New York Giants this week. Cowboys at 6-6, and let's start with our opening statements. Let's start with Moose. Daryl?
Well, they get Sean Lee back, and I hope they get some other guys back and rested. That was a tough stretch that they just came through with the Thanksgiving game and then wrapping it around to another Thursday. So they finally got their mini bye, so hopefully everybody's rested and ready to play.
You know, I think they rested, man, but it took them 3 games, but they finally got a team victory. Special teams, offense, defense. Kyle Wilbur, Switzer, Kayvon Frazier, where'd he show up?
They could be walking into a Hornets nest this week with Steve Spagnuolo making his head coaching debut and Eli Manning back in the field. But the bottom line is emotion can't overcome bad football, and the Giants right now are playing bad football. And
we'll get into the chaos in New York coming up here in just a little bit on Cowboys Insider. But let's go back and examine what happened. A total team win against the Redskins last Thursday night. Let's start with, how about forcing some turnovers? It's so big when you win the takeaway battle, Daryl.
It gets you on short fields. It kind of takes away all the things that they were struggling in. So that was a huge part about it. But the one concern I had in the game was that first quarter, the game was kind of laying there for somebody to take, and Dallas didn't really assert themselves. So those turnovers, even though they gave them short fields, I think it was more important for just to kind of seize the momentum of that game, because it sat there for 15 minutes.
I agree with you, because that red zone deal with Heath getting the interception, if they would have scored first, it would have been a deciding factor. But they took that away. The defense held until the offense got on track.
And like Bill said, they ran the football. You know, they treated Alfred Morris like he was Zeke Elliott and said, this guy's going to get the ball 25 to 30 times. We're going to run the ball. We're going to control the clock. We're going to keep the defense off field, and we're going to win this game. That's exactly what they did.
27 carries for 127 yards for Alfred Morris. They were patient in the running game because, as Daryl mentioned off the top, the game was just laying there for them. But as Goose points out, I mean, you got to basically treat that running game as if Zeke is there, don't you?
Well, and it's the big thing. We talk about this all the time. You know, it doesn't look pretty at certain points in the first quarter. You know, you're trying to find your way, but this offensive line will eventually take control of the line of scrimmage, and that 3, 4, 5-yard run becomes 8, 9, 10. But if you abandon it, if you don't get the 25 to 30 reps, like Rick's talking about, you never get to that point.
First 2 series we opened up, man, and Dak looked kind of, unstable there. But once it was a 3rd and 5, he ran for the first, and it started flowing. He started throwing the ball better. So it all works hand in hand.
Yeah, I saw this with when you guys play for the Cowboys, and you got that kind of offensive line. You start out in the first quarter, Emmitt Smith is getting 1 and 2 yards a carry. Second quarter, 3 and 4 yards carry. Third quarter, you're weighing on and all, 5 and 6. In the fourth quarter, those 5 and 6 have become 10s and 12s, and that's exactly what this team is doing right now. Morris is not going to look good in the first quarter, but in the fourth quarter, he's going to be a load. And
Alfred Morris had 89 of his 127 yards in the second half of that game. All right, the previous 3 games, the Cowboys' defense had been riddled by some veteran quarterbacks, mind you. But some changes in the secondary. We saw Chido Awuzie, the second-round draft pick, really for the first time this season, making his first start. Kayvon Frazier makes some plays. I think there's reason to be excited about some of these young DBs now.
Well, I think we've been waiting for this all season long, but they just haven't been able to get healthy enough to get on the field to get those practice reps. So this is the potential that they had. And, yeah, they struggled against some veteran quarterbacks there for a while with Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers, but Kirk Cousins is a good player. You know, Kirk's up there with some of the best in the NFL when you look at statistical categories. So, this is a good performance by a defense that needed a good performance at that time.
You know, batted balls, pressure on the quarterback, guys being aware of where they're at, adjusting your defense to that young talent, letting them play a little bit more man-to-man. It helped them.
You know, you're a long shot for the playoffs. You've got to win out and need some breaks. This is a time to look at your young players. And I think you look at that secondary, Lewis, Awuzie, Woods, Kayvon Frazier, that's your future. I want to get these guys in the field and see what I've got with them, because they could very well be the starting group starting next season.
And now Orlando Scandrick has a back injury. He'll be out this week, maybe next week as well. But the return of Sean Lee this week, and that is obviously huge for this defense.
It's so important for Dallas to control the running game, and obviously we've seen how they struggle without Sean Lee in the lineup. You don't want Orleans Darkwa to get anything positive in this game because he feeds off that, and it's going to be Sean's responsibility to make sure that there is absolutely no production in that running game. Force Eli Manning to get in there behind that offensive line, try and find some connections with receivers down the field, but take away the running game.
I agree 100% because they're going to play to their defense. New York's going to play to their defense, so they're going to have to try to run the ball. The Terminator will shut all that out, man. I mean, Sean Lee, excuse me.
This is the same offensive line we saw week 1, except it's a little less.
Right.
So I would expect the Cowboys to shut down the run.
All right, we talk about some of the weak links on the Giants, and they've got some strengths as well. When we come back here on Cowboys Insider from the Star in Frisco.
Cowboys Insider, presented by Baylor Scott & White, is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, the official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys, AT&T, mobilizing your world, and by Baylor Scott & White. We're changing health care for life. This segment is brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage.
2nd and 4 at the 8. Pistol formation with Morris right behind Prescott and trips left and a read option fake. Throws it in the end zone. Touchdown to Witten. Right at the post. Right past the ear hole of the safety, DeShazer Everett.
That Witten touchdown, a great example of what can happen when you establish the run. Welcome back to Cowboys Insider inside the Academy Sports and Outdoors studios as we break down Cowboys versus Giants. It is a noon kickoff this week as the Cowboys hit the road for the first time in a month. And how about this New York Giants team? They start the week by firing Ben McAdoo and their GM Jerry Reese as well. After the previous week, Eli Manning gets benched in favor of Geno Smith, and now we got Eli Manning back starting.
Yeah, and Stephen Jones made an interesting comment early in the week that Eli's always been a thorn in the side to this team, and that's your big concern. But the number one thing, I'm not even going to get into X's and O's and all that stuff, because we had these guys against San Francisco. They are dysfunctional. And this was when Eli Manning was still the starting quarterback and Ben McAdoo was there. Continue to let these guys feel like they're dysfunctional. Don't ever allow them to think it wasn't the quarterback last week when they played the Raiders. It's not going to be Ben McAdoo this week when you play the Cowboys. Just come out and start the game fast. Make them think that they're just dysfunctional like they've been all season long. Just keep reinforcing that thought.
You know, I think it was just a dislike for the head coach, and I don't think Coach Steve Spagnuolo can fix it in 1 week, but I just know they're going to cater to their defense. And by catering to their defense, maybe they can get a tight end from somewhere and put him on end of the line and try to run a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with Nate. If you have an offensive head coach, he's going to do some creative things in offense. It's going to be all about the offense. But Spagnuolo comes in here, I think you're going to see a more streamlined offense. I think they're going to try to run the ball. They're going to get back to the basics in offense to keep the defense out of bad positions. And I think that's what that will give them a chance to be competitive in this last month. They're going to be more basic on offense.
And Orleans Darkwa is the guy that's carrying the load in the running game as far as the Giants are concerned. I think you look at these two teams, and maybe the biggest difference in the two teams, the offensive lines. And it's not like the Giants haven't invested in the offensive line. They have. They've just made the wrong evaluations probably in the draft process.
Absolutely. I say to people all the time, oh, Dallas has got a great offensive line, but they invested 3 first-round picks.
Right.
I said, I can show you teams all around the NFL that have invested first-round picks, but they haven't panned out. So you have to give a lot of credit to the scouting department here with the Cowboys. Not only did they invest in it, but they hit on the guys that they wanted to hit on. So I see it all across the league. The offensive line is coming back into vogue as the group you have to have. This spread offense with the ball coming out quick and we can just get by with an average offensive line, that doesn't work anymore.
I agree 100%, man. And there's nothing
Leave it to an offensive lineman.
There's nothing more I can add to that move.
It's about time I got back to what you guys were doing up there.
Yeah.
You have to run the ball because you control the game. You have to have guys like Nate up.
Every time I see the head coach, Jason Garrett, he smiles at me, and I know what he be thinking. Run the ball. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I was talking to Mickey Loomis this week. He says the big difference in the Saints is their offensive line is so underrated and undervalued right now. That's been the big difference. They're running the ball. They're protecting Breeze. It's like Daryl said, it all starts up front.
And, of course, a huge thing that's affected the Giants this season, injuries at the wide receiver position. They haven't had Odell Beckham Jr. basically since the start of the year. They do have Sterling Shepard back, but the tight end Evan Ingram is putting up some numbers.
Yeah, he's a unique guy. You know, he's going to be very similar to Jordan Reed. So, you know, when you play the Washington Redskins, you know, that's a matchup that you have. When you play the Giants, now it's going to be Evan Ingram. So We'll see how they match him up. But Sterling Shepard is very good too. They've got people out there. We watched them go to Denver and win a game that I don't think anybody thought they were going to. We found out a little bit more about Denver. I'm still trying to figure out the Chiefs' victory, even though the Chiefs are struggling.
Right.
So this is a team you can't sleep on. Exactly like Rick said, they can get the emotion up and come play hard.
Everything I watched him the last few games, man. He still got the little drops, and I think that's because he's young. But, man, I've seen him make some catches and some moves that are nice. So if they can get some momentum, we still should beat them by 12.
Yeah, a year ago, I would have loved this matchup with Byron Jones. I thought Byron Jones had a great year last year covering the tight ends. But now I'm not. I think Ingram's going to be a factor, but not that much of a factor to beat the Cowboys.
And the Giants have invested heavily financially on the defensive side of the football. When we come back here on Cowboys Insider, we take a look at the Final Four for the Cowboys, the final 4 games of the season. Can they make this playoff push?
This segment was brought to you by the Dallas Morning News. Nobody does sports like Sports Day. Your home for complete Dallas Cowboys coverage. This segment is brought to you by DraftKings. Play for free today at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site.
Pirine to his right. Receiver sets up in the left slot. 2 receivers split to the right. Second down, Cousins back, looks right, looks left, looks middle, throws it incomplete, tipped and intercepted at the 5-yard line, and it is brought back by Jeff Heath out of the end zone. Tipped through the hands of Jamison Crowder. Heath was there to be the ball hawk, and Dallas with a takeaway, an intercepted pass by a Dallas Cowboy. Heaven forfend.
What a tough game Jamison Crowder had last week. The Cowboys take advantage with Jeff Heath with the early interception there, and it was a huge win for the Cowboys because now as we enter the month of December, the Cowboys can make that playoff push. But really, can they? They got the Giants starting off this month, got the Giants and then the Raiders both on the road, then come home Christmas Eve with Zeke back to play Seattle, and then they close at Philadelphia. So 3 out of 4 on the road. But can they make it where it matters when Zeke gets back Christmas Eve?
Exactly. They've got to get to that point on December 24th. I thought 2 weeks ago that this was doable. This just got really, really hard over the last 2 weeks because of the way the games played out. So now the Giants, and I think this is going to be an emotional game with the changes they made. The Raiders are back in the thick of it out in the AFC West, so they're going to be playing for their playoff lives, and they got a little bit more control. Seattle's got an opportunity to win the NFC West. They're going to be up and going. Philadelphia, I thought, might have had control of this thing. They may be going for home field last game of the season. Right. So I thought you might catch a team that was sitting some guys down and rested them. This is going to be very difficult for Dallas.
It will be, but you got a little hope last week. Now you got a little more hope. Just start building. You never know what way momentum can take you. Continue to tackle, continue to make plays when they come to you. Let's just see how this works out. I don't believe in what the other guy doing, but I believe in what you do.
The tough part is you got to win out, and there's so many teams that are already sitting there at 8 and with 7 that can go 2-2 and 3-1. It's a race to 10. And right now Atlanta's got the tiebreaker. Green Bay would have a tiebreaker. You know, in Seattle, you have to beat Seattle. You can't give Seattle a tiebreaker. They're a long shot because of all the teams they've got to climb over. But you can't worry about that. Worry about the Giants.
And oftentimes it's so huge the way a team plays in December. I kind of liken this back. I guess it was the 91 season when you ran off 5 straight wins with Steve Berline at quarterback and were able to get into the playoffs. Is it similar to that at all, you think?
Yeah, but we started to gain control of our destiny. It's like Nate says, you can't worry about what the other guys are doing. You got to worry about yourself, and that's what happens when you lose control of your own destiny. So right now they don't control it. Rick just went through all the teams that are ahead of them that they've got to leapfrog. So that will be their biggest challenge.
You know, but one of the things is if you're a playoff team, you got to play like a playoff team and beat a 2-10 Giants team and a Raiders team, even if it is on the road.
I agree 100%, man. And like Moose said, they're in turmoil. Keep them there. Jump on them. If you can make a big play early and rally around that and just keep grinding, you got a good shot of taking that first step of starting to climb over people.
Yeah, I think the Giants are key. We're going to find out if this team thinks it's a playoff contender this week. You know, we're going to know all about this team's playoff hopes this week. If you go down and you come up flat against Giants, you're not a playoff team. You don't belong in January.
All right, Cowboys Insider continues. In a moment, we take a trip around the league when we come back.
This segment was brought to you by DraftKings. Play for free today at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site.
with 2:43 to play in the game. And a handoff, Rod Smith again, pushing at the goal line, and this time he's in. Touchdown, Rod Smith. His second in a couple of weeks and his second of the year.
Cowboys get back on track last week against the Redskins. We see what they can do this week against the 2-10 Giants on the road. Welcome back to Cowboys Insider. Inside the Academy Sports and Outdoor Studios, now we go around the league. Got some good matchups around the league. Let's start in the NFC South, where the Saints are playing at the Falcons. A Thursday night game this week. Saints took care of the Panthers last week, and now a Falcons team that's 7-5, and this affects the Cowboys as far as a wild card goes. If the Cowboys can keep winning.
Yeah, I thought Atlanta had kind of gotten back on track, but they played a tough Minnesota team. You know, I'm not going to complain too much about what happened last week, but they have not been a good home team. You know, early in the year they lost to the Bills and the Dolphins at home. Those are teams that they should have been able to handle, and now they've lost to Minnesota. So that home field advantage for Atlanta just not there this season.
Let me say this, man. Two things travel. That's a run game, and that's defense. That's what the Fighting Zimmermans got, and that's what the Saints got with a quarterback. Atlanta, we gonna get you.
I really like what the Saints have going. You got
yes.
It's a Hall of Fame quarterback in your back pocket. Right now, you're a team that runs the ball and is playing terrific defense. And if you need them, see now I think New Orleans, if they were home in the Dome, I think they're tough. Now they can travel, like you said, defense travels.
Yes.
They can go on the road. They can go to Philadelphia. They can go to Minnesota. They can go on the road and beat somebody. I really like the Saints at this point.
And obviously Nate really likes the Fighting Zimmermans and Zimmers, and the Vikings go on the road and play at Cam Newton and the Panthers this week.
That's a tough follow-up. I mean,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, you know, you go from Atlanta, now you go to Carolina, but two completely different styles too.
Right.
But you know what? Make Cam throw. You know, because they're gonna hit Cam. Make Cam throw. I want to see what Cam can do week to week throwing this ball.
And they will hit Cam. The Fighting Zimmers will hit Cam.
Yeah.
They'll hit anybody with the football this week.
What's he get? He's gone 4 straight now without a pick. He's
But I want to see, man. Zim gonna make him throw that rock.
And the game Daryl's got this week, nice matchup. Seattle plays at Jacksonville. That's a good one.
Yeah. All yours, Daryl.
I was very impressed with Seattle against Philadelphia, and not because who they beat, but how they beat them. I'm a huge Cam Chancellor fan, and when that defense has changed, it's usually been when Cam's been out of the lineup. Earl's been out of the lineup. There's been other guys out of that lineup, but they always seem to have their biggest drop-off when Cam's not there. Bradley McDougald did a nice job filling in for him.
Wow. Well, I know Dave Campo, he coached McDougald at Kansas, and he was big on him in free agency. Thought the Cowboys ought to make a run at him, and he's getting an opportunity now. All right, and then you got the Eagles playing at the Rams. They are staying on the West Coast after losing at Seattle. They're actually at the Big A working out this week in Anaheim. That's a good matchup there, Eagles and Rams.
Eagles and Rams, it's nice, man, but it don't touch us. I mean, I like the way they let Gurley run the ball. I like the way their quarterback is responding. But you know what? The Eagles, can they really be the winning team? We'll find out.
And that's the question. And what if they lose this game? Then they've got a 2-game losing streak, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, they were like the best team in football. Now they become very, very vulnerable. They'll still win the East, and they'll still be in the playoffs, but a lot of teams are going to think they can beat the Eagles, which that wouldn't have been the case 2 weeks ago.
Right, it's amazing how things change week to week in the NFL. And when we come back here on Cowboys Insider, it's the keys to a second straight Cowboys win.
Cowboys Insider, presented by Baylor Scott & White, was brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. Rico's, make every game a home game with Rico's. Baylor Scott & White, it's easy to find the right doctor right now at BaylorScottandWhite.com. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' films and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.
Final couple of minutes here of Cowboys Insider inside the Academy Sports and Outdoor Studios. A reminder, this game got flexed back to a noon start. It's a rare noon start, Cowboys and Giants, which shows you how this season has gone for both of these teams, really. 2-10 versus 6-6. What's the key to a Cowboys win, Daryl?
A fast start. This has been a dysfunctional team all year long. You changed your quarterback last week. That wasn't the answer. You fired your head coach and your GM this week. Don't let that be the answer. Come out, jump on these guys early, like Nate said. Reinforce that they've been dysfunctional all season long, and you're going to be dysfunctional until you get things turned around in the offseason. You may have played your best team game. The defense, for a change, got the offense going. Special teams gave us the burst we needed. If we can take that on the road, we should beat up this dysfunctional team DJ keep talking about.
Yeah, the Giants don't have a pass rush. 21 sacks on the season. So Scott Linehan and Jason Garrett think, you know something, we can throw the football against these guys. Don't go there. Run the ball.
All right, final 20 seconds. I know your team to watch in December is Minnesota, right?
Yes, sir, the Fighting Zimmermans.
Who's the team to watch in December?
Saints. Drew Brees.
Saints?
I'm going to go off the grid. I'm going to go the Chargers. I'm going to go into the AFC and see the Chargers make a push, and they could be. I could see them in the NFC champion or the AFC championship game.
Wow. All right. That does it for Cowboys Insider. For Darryl, Rick, and Nate, I'm Bill, and we will see you again next week right here from the Star in Frisco.
I agree. I think the Chargers.